When struggling single father Michael Donovan risks his life to rescue a girl from a frozen lake, he has no idea he's stepping into a dangerous conspiracy that will change his family forever. As powerful forces hunt them across snow-covered landscapes, Michael and his daughter Emma find themselves drawn into the mysterious world of their new companion Lily, whose secrets have made her the target of a ruthless billionaire. Racing against time and pursued by men who will stop at nothing to reclaim what they believe is their property, this unlikely trio must find strength in each other to survive. In a battle that will test the limits of courage and sacrifice, Michael must make an impossible choice: return to the safety of his old life or embrace a dangerous new destiny to protect the girl whose life he saved. A brief pause before we begin. Write in the comments where you're listening to our stories from. And subscribe to our channel. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Enjoy the story. The ice cracked like a gunshot across the frozen lake. Michael Donovan's head snapped up, his breath catching in his throat as he spotted a small figure in a bright blue coat about 50 yards offshore. One moment she was there, a child standing motionless on the gleaming surface. The next, she had disappeared through the ice with a terrified scream that pierced the winter silence. "Dad!" His 12-year-old daughter Emma clutched his arm, her eyes wide with fear. Michael was already moving, shrugging off his worn jacket as he ran. "Call 911, he shouted over his shoulder, knowing full well that emergency services would take at least 20 minutes to reach this remote stretch of Lake Everett. By then, it would be too late. The girl had seconds, not minutes, and Michael Donovan, a man who had already lost too much in his 42 years, felt something primal stir inside him. The same fierce protective instinct he felt for his own daughter. Without hesitation, he was racing across the snow, prepared to risk everything for a child he'd never met. His boots crunched heavily as he reached the shoreline, mind racing. He'd grown up near this lake, knew its moods and dangers intimately. January was treacherous. Some areas could hold a truck, others would break under a child's weight. "Stay on the shore, Emma," he called back. His daughter stood frozen, cell phone clutched in her mittened hands, tears streaming down her face as she nodded. Michael dropped to his stomach at the edge of the ice, distributing his weight as he'd been taught as a boy. The cold bit through his flannel shirt immediately, but he barely noticed. 20 feet ahead, a small hand clawed at the jagged edge of the ice hole, then disappeared beneath the dark water. "I'm coming," he shouted, inching forward on his belly, spreading his arms and legs wide. Every movement was calculated, deliberate despite his racing heart. The ice beneath him groaned ominously. The hole where the girl had fallen was about the size of a kitchen table now, the edges still cracking and breaking away. When he was about 5 feet from the opening, he could see her again, a pale face framed by dark hair, lips already turning blue, struggling to keep her head above water. "Grab my hand." Michael stretched forward, reaching as far as he could without shifting his weight too drastically. Their fingers brushed, slick with icy water, but couldn't connect. The girl's eyes, wide, terrified, in a startling amber color, locked onto his as she gasped for breath. She couldn't have been more than 12, the same age as Emma. "What's your name?" Michael asked, trying to keep her focused, fighting his own rising panic. Lily, she managed between chattering teeth. "Lily, I need you to kick your legs and reach for me again." He inched closer, feeling the ice sag slightly beneath him. "That's it, just a little more." This time their hands connected. Her grip was surprisingly strong for a child so small, her fingers locking around his wrist with desperate strength. Michael pulled slowly, carefully, mindful of the breaking ice. "I've got you," he said as her upper body emerged from the water. "I've got you." With agonizing slowness, he dragged her onto more solid ice, both of them flat on their stomachs now. Lily's expensive-looking coat was a sodden weight, her small body racked with violent shivering. "We need to get you warm," Michael said, already shrugging out of his flannel shirt, leaving only a thin t-shirt between his skin and the biting January air. He wrapped the shirt around her shoulders. "Can you move?" Lily nodded weakly. "The ice might break again. We need to crawl, spread out your weight, just like I'm doing. Can you follow me?" Another nod, more determined this time. They inched back toward shore, an excruciating journey that seemed to take hours but probably lasted less than 5 minutes. Emma was waiting at the edge, still on the phone with emergency services. "They're coming, Dad." 10 minutes, her voice cracked with relief when she saw them approaching. When they finally reached solid ground, Michael gathered the shivering girl in his arms and stood. She weighed almost nothing, a feather-light bundle of wet clothes and trembling limbs. "My car's just up the hill," he said to Emma, who was already running ahead to open doors. "We need to get her warm now." We can't wait for the ambulance. In the 10-year-old Subaru wagon that had seen better days, Michael cranked the heat as high as it would go. Emma scrambled in the back, pulling out the emergency blanket from the first aid kit and their spare winter clothes from the duffel bag they always kept for after-school sports. "We need to get these wet things off you," Michael said gently to Lily, whose lips were still blue, teeth chattering so hard he worried they might break. "Emma, help her change while I find something dry for her to wear." Emma nodded, all business, now that the immediate danger had passed. She helped the girl out of the soaked blue coat. As they peeled it away, something fell from the pocket with a heavy thud onto the floor mat. A phone in a jewel-encrusted case that probably cost more than Michael's monthly salary. Michael noticed, but was more concerned with finding dry clothes. He handed Emma his spare sweatshirt and a pair of her leggings from the duffel. "Thank you," Lily managed through chattering teeth as Emma helped her into the dry clothes. "Don't talk yet. Just focus on getting warm," Michael said, reaching back to wrap the emergency blanket around her. He caught her eye in the rearview mirror. Those unusual amber eyes still wide with shock, but also something else. A keen awareness that seemed beyond her years. "Emma, see if you can find her parents in her phone contacts," Michael said, pulling onto the road. "We need to let them know what happened." Emma picked up the bejeweled phone from the floor. "It needs a passcode." Can't call," Lily said, seeming to gather strength as the car's heater finally kicked into full gear. "Guardian out of country." Michael frowned, glancing at her in the mirror again. "You're here alone?" The girl hesitated, then shook her head. "Staff at hotel." "Which hotel?" "The Lakeview Resort," she said, her voice steadier now, though still soft. "The penthouse." Michael and Emma exchanged a quick look. The Lakeview was the most exclusive resort in the region, a place where rooms started at $500 a night, and the penthouse? Well, he couldn't even imagine what that cost. "Staff don't know I left," Lily admitted, looking down at her hands. "I just wanted to see the lake up close." The sound of sirens cut through the moment. An ambulance was approaching from behind, followed by a police cruiser. "They'll need to check you out," Michael said, pulling over to the shoulder of the road. "Make sure you don't have hypothermia." As the emergency vehicles pulled up behind them, Lily suddenly grabbed Michael's arm with surprising strength. "Please don't leave," she said, those amber eyes intense and pleading. "Please." Something about her expression, vulnerable yet strangely determined, reminded him so much of Emma when she was frightened. That same paternal instinct surged again. "We won't," he promised. "We'll stay with you until we find whoever's responsible for you." Relief washed over her face, followed by something Michael couldn't quite read. Gratitude, certainly, but also something more calculating, as if pieces of a puzzle were falling into place behind those unusual eyes. The paramedics were approaching the car now, and Michael stepped out to wave them over. As he did, his phone buzzed with a text from his boss at the factory. "Where are you?" "Overtime shift started 20 minutes ago." Michael closed his eyes briefly. He'd forgotten the extra shift he'd picked up to cover this month's heating bill. That was $180 he desperately needed, now gone. But when he looked back at the two girls huddled in his car, his daughter and this strange, wealthy child he'd just pulled from death's grip, he couldn't bring himself to care about the money. Some things mattered more. What he didn't realize as he walked toward the approaching paramedics was that this chance encounter on a frozen lake was about to change everything. For him, for Emma, and for the mysterious girl with the amber eyes who was watching his every move from the back seat with an intensity that belied her young age. Nor could he have possibly guessed who Lily Chen really was, or why her guardian had left her at the Lakeview Resort while he conducted his business overseas. Or that in saving her life today, Michael Donovan had inadvertently placed himself and his daughter at the center of something much larger and more dangerous than he could imagine. But he would learn soon enough. The emergency room of Lakeview General Hospital hummed with the quiet efficiency of a Tuesday afternoon. Michael sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair, Emma leaning against his shoulder, both watching the curtained area where doctors were examining Lily. "Do you think she'll be okay, Dad?" Emma whispered, fiddling with the frayed edge of her jacket sleeve. "The doctors said she's stable," Michael reassured her, though his own mind was racing with questions. Who leaves a 12-year-old girl alone in a hotel penthouse? Why was she wandering on the frozen lake by herself? And why did he feel this nagging sense that something wasn't quite right? His phone buzzed again, the fifth message from his supervisor. He'd never missed a shift before, not even when he had the flu last winter. One more absence would put him on probation. With a sigh, he texted back, "Emergency. We'll explain tomorrow." The response was immediate, final warning. One more no-show, wonks termination. Michael pocketed the phone, his jaw tight. The factory job barely covered their expenses, but it was all he had since the construction company downsized 2 years ago. Without it, they'd lose the apartment within months. Mr. Donovan? He looked up to see a nurse standing before them, clipboard in hand. How is she? He asked, standing. Remarkably well considering. Mild hypothermia, but her core temperature is nearly normal now. The nurse lowered her voice. She's asking for you both. Are you family friends? No, Michael began. Yes, Emma interrupted firmly. We're friends. Can we see her? The nurse hesitated, then nodded. Briefly, we're still trying to contact her guardian? Behind the curtain, Lily sat propped up against pillows, looking tiny in the hospital bed. Her dark hair had dried into messy waves, and some color had returned to her cheeks. She was wearing a hospital gown, and an IV line ran into her arm. When she saw them, her face lit up. You stayed, she said simply. Of course we did, Emma replied, moving to the edge of the bed. Are you feeling better? Lily nodded. Much better. The doctor says I can leave soon. Her amber eyes fixed on Michael. Thank you for saving my life. There was something about the way she said it, so formal, so adult, that struck Michael as odd. Anyone would have done the same, he said awkwardly. No, Lily said with strange certainty. They wouldn't have. An uncomfortable silence fell. Michael cleared his throat. The hospital is trying to reach your guardian. Something flickered across Lily's face. Alarm, perhaps, or calculation. Mr. Wadey is in Hong Kong on business. He won't answer unknown numbers. Then we should call hotel security, Michael suggested. They must be looking for you by now. Lily seemed to consider this, then reached for the bedside table where her belongings were piled. Her jeweled phone case caught the fluorescent light, throwing tiny rainbows across the white sheets. I can call Miss Parker, she said. She's my tutor. She's supposed to check on me this evening. Michael frowned. Wait, you're alone all day. How long has your guardian been gone? 3 days, Lily answered, tapping at her phone screen. He'll be back Friday. And he left you alone in a hotel? Michael couldn't keep the disapproval from his voice. Lily looked up, her expression suddenly older, wearier. I'm used to it. Before Michael could respond, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Raised voices approached, and then the curtain was yanked aside. A tall woman in an impeccable gray suit strode in, followed by 2 men in dark clothing with earpieces. Lily! The woman's voice was sharp with relief and anger. What were you thinking? Lily's demeanor changed instantly, her spine straightening, chin lifting. Us to him. Hello, Miss Parker. The woman turned to Michael and Emma, her gaze coolly assessing. And you are? This is Mr. Donovan and his daughter Emma, Lily said before Michael could answer. He saved my life when I fell through the ice. Something in Ms. Parker's expression shifted slightly. I see. Thank you for your assistance, Mr. Donovan. We'll take it from here. One of the men stepped forward, handling a leather wallet. We'd like to compensate you for your time in any inconvenience. He pulled out what looked like several $100 bills. Michael stiffened. That's not necessary. Please, the man insisted. Mr. Way would want to express his gratitude. I said no, Michael repeated firmly. He looked at Lily, whose face had gone carefully blank. I'm glad you're going to be okay, Lily. She nodded, her eyes never leaving his. Perhaps we could have hot chocolate sometime? To say thank you properly, Mrs. Way. Parker frowned. Lily, that's not... Please, Miss... Parker, Lily interrupted, her voice suddenly childlike again. Mr. Donovan saved my life, and Emma could be my friend. I don't have any friends here. The calculated plea hung in the air. Michael felt Emma's hand slip into his, squeezing hopefully. Miss... Parker checked her sleek watch. We really must get you back to the resort. The doctor has cleared your release. Tomorrow, Lily said, somehow making it sound both like a question and a command. Could they visit tomorrow? After a long moment, Ms. Parker sighed. I suppose a brief visit would be acceptable. 4 o'clock in the lobby lounge. She handed Michael a crisp business card. Please be punctual, Mr. Donovan. And just like that, it was decided. The men helped Lily from the bed, one retrieving a wheelchair, while the other gathered her belongings. As they prepared to leave, Lily caught Michael's eye one last time. I won't forget what you did, she said quietly. Not ever. Then they were gone, leaving Michael and Emma standing in the suddenly empty space, the business card a heavy weight in Michael's hand. Dad? Emma's voice broke through his thoughts. Are we really going tomorrow? Michael studied the card. Diana Parker, educational consultant printed in embossed silver letters, with the Lakeview Resort's contact information below. What kind of 12-year-old had an educational consultant and security detail? "Dad?" Emma prompted again. "Yes," he said finally. I think we should go. Something feels off." His daughter nodded solemnly. "I thought so too. Did you notice how she kept switching? Sometimes talking like a kid, sometimes like a grown-up?" Michael was continually amazed by Emma's perceptiveness. Ever since her mother died, she'd developed an almost uncanny ability to read people. "It's probably nothing," he said, though he didn't believe it. "But we'll go see her tomorrow, after my shift." "If you still have a shift," Emma said quietly. Michael winced. He'd almost forgotten his boss's text. "I'll fix it," he promised, though he had no idea how. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty as they walked to their car. Sleet had started falling, coating the windshield with a thin layer of ice that Michael had to scrape away before they could leave. "What do you think her deal is?" Emma asked as they pulled onto the main road. "She's obviously super rich." "I don't know," Michael admitted, "but money can't buy happiness. Or proper supervision, apparently." "She seems lonely," Emma said thoughtfully. "I'm glad we're going tomorrow." Michael nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead to the next day's problems, explaining his absence to his boss, making up the lost wages somehow, the stack of bills waiting on the kitchen counter. January was always the hardest month, with the heating bill nearly triple the summer rate. They drove in silence for a while, windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm against the sleet. As they approached their apartment complex, a weathered 4-story building on the edge of town, Michael noticed a sleek black SUV parked near the entrance. "That's weird," Emma said, following his gaze. "Nobody around here drives a car like that." Michael shrugged, too tired to speculate. "Probably someone visiting another tenant." But as they pulled into their assigned spot, the SUV's doors opened. 2 men emerged, the same security personnel from the hospital. "Mr. Donovan," one called, approaching with measured steps. "May we have a word?" Emma pressed closer to Michael's side. "Dad, wait in the car," he told her, keeping his voice calm despite the unease building in his chest. "Lock the doors." The men stopped a respectful distance away. The taller one spoke. "Mr. Way would like to express his personal gratitude for your assistance today." "As I said at the hospital, that's not necessary," Michael replied. "Nevertheless," the man continued, holding out a sealed envelope. "He insists." Against his better judgment, Michael accepted the envelope. It was thick, heavy in his hand. "Mr. We also wanted you to have this." The second man offered a small box. "What is it?" Michael asked warily. "A token of appreciation for your daughter. Mr. We understand she was instrumental in contacting emergency services." Michael hesitated, then took the box as well. "Thank Mr. Way for his kindness, but please tell him this isn't necessary." The men exchanged a glance. "There's one more thing," the first said. "Mr. Way would like to meet you personally when he returns. The details are in the envelope." Before Michael could respond, they had returned to their vehicle and driven away, leaving him standing in the sleet-filled parking lot, an envelope in one hand and a small box in the other. Emma rolled down her window. "Dad? What did they want?" Michael shook his head, bewildered. "I'm not sure." Inside their small 2-bedroom apartment, Michael set the envelope and box on the kitchen counter. Emma hovered nearby, curiosity evident in her expression. "Can I open the box?" she asked. Michael nodded, still distracted by the strange encounter. Emma carefully lifted the lid of the small black box. Her gasp made him turn. Inside, nestled on black velvet, was a delicate silver bracelet with a small charm shaped like a camera. Exactly like the one Emma had been saving for from the photography store downtown. "How did they know?" she whispered, lifting it carefully. Michael had no answer. Instead, he opened the envelope. Inside was a bank check and a handwritten note on heavy cream stationery. The check made him freeze. $25,000 made out to Michael Donovan. The note was brief. "For the life of my ward, which is beyond price. No strings attached, but I would like to meet the man who risked his life for hers. Friday, 7 p.m., Lakeview Resort." Dad." Emma's voice seemed to come from far away. "Dad, what's wrong?" Michael handed her the check, watching her eyes widen. "We can't accept this," he said automatically. Even as his mind raced with all the ways this money could change their lives. It would cover 6 months of rent, pay off the medical bills from Sarah's final illness, maybe even allow Emma to attend that summer photography camp she'd been dreaming about. "Why not?" Emma challenged, setting the bracelet back in its box with reluctant care. "You saved that girl's life." "Because we don't know these people or what they want," Michael said, though his resolve was already weakening. Maybe they just want to say thank you, Emma suggested, but there was doubt in her voice too. Michael took the check back, staring at the amount. $25,000. A life-changing sum for them, but clearly pocket change to whoever Mr. May was. His phone buzzed again. A text from his boss. Replacement found for your position. No need to come in tomorrow. Just like that, he was unemployed. In January, with the heating bill due and Emma needing new boots for the winter, Michael looked at the check again, then at the note. Friday, 3 days away. We'll go tomorrow to see Lily, he decided. And I'll meet this Mr. Way on Friday. Until then, we don't cash this check. Emma nodded, relief evident in her expression. She hadn't wanted the money to cloud their judgment either. As they prepared for bed that night, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they'd been drawn into something much larger than a simple rescue. Who was Lily really? And what kind of man sent $25,000 to a stranger without even meeting them first? He stood at Emma's bedroom door, watching her sleep, struck by how vulnerable she looked. He'd promised Sarah on her deathbed that he'd keep their daughter safe, give her a good life. He'd been failing at the latter lately, working so much that he rarely saw Emma except on her way to school or already half asleep. Maybe, just maybe, this strange encounter was the break they needed. Or maybe it was something far more complicated. As he turned to go to his own room, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you again, Mr. Donovan. See you tomorrow. Lily, how had she gotten his number? He hadn't given it to anyone at the hospital. Another text followed immediately. P.S. Please don't tell Ms. Parker I texted you. She monitors my communications. Usually, Michael stared at the message for a long time before responding. Get some rest, Lily. We'll see you tomorrow. The response was immediate. I haven't had anyone care what I do in a long time. It feels nice. Good night, Mr. Donovan. Michael set his phone on the nightstand, more unsettled than ever. A 12-year-old girl shouldn't say things like that. Shouldn't be left alone in hotel penthouses. Shouldn't have security personnel, but no one who cared when she went to bed. Whatever was going on with Lily Chen, Michael had a feeling their lives had just become irrevocably entangled with hers. Whether that was a blessing or a curse remained to be seen. As he drifted into an uneasy sleep, he couldn't shake the image of those amber eyes, too old for their young face, watching him with a desperate kind of hope, as if he were not just her rescuer from the frozen lake, but from something deeper, colder, and far more dangerous. The Lakeview Resort loomed like a gleaming monument to wealth against the gray January sky. Its glass and steel facade reflected the frozen lake beyond, creating an illusion of endless winter. Michael parked his aging Subaru between a Maserati and a Range Rover in the visitor section, painfully aware of the contrast. Do I look okay? Emma asked, tugging at her best sweater, a Christmas gift from her aunt that was already starting to pill at the elbows. You look perfect, Michael assured her, though he understood her anxiety. He'd changed shirts twice himself, finally settling on the one button-down that didn't show wear at the collar. The truth was, neither of them owned clothes that belonged in a place like this. The lobby was a cathedral to luxury, soaring ceilings, marble floors, and a massive fireplace where real logs crackled, sending the scent of cedar through the air. A grand piano occupied one corner, played by a tuxedoed man whose fingers barely seemed to touch the keys. Wow, Emma whispered, her eyes wide. It's like a movie set. Michael approached the reception desk where a woman with an impeccable bun offered a professional smile. May I help you? We're here to see Lily Chen, he said. We have an appointment with Ms. Parker at 4 o'clock. The receptionist's expression shifted subtly. Recognition, perhaps respect. Of course, Mr. Donovan. They're expecting you in the Sapphire Lounge. She gestured toward a doorway across the lobby. Through there, to your left. As they crossed the vast space, Michael felt eyes following them. His worn boots squeaked slightly on the polished floor, each step a reminder that they didn't belong here. The Sapphire Lounge was a study in blues and silvers, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. Ms. Parker rose from a velvet armchair as they entered, her expression unreadable. Mr. Donovan, Emma, thank you for coming. Her voice was cool, professional. Lily is quite looking forward to your visit. Where is she? Emma asked, looking around the empty lounge. Miss. Parker glanced at her watch. She's just finishing her Mandarin lesson. She'll join us shortly. Please sit down. They settled into chairs that probably cost more than Michael's monthly rent, A server appeared instantly with a tray of petit fours and a silver tea service. Earl Grey for the adults, Ms. Parker instructed. And hot chocolate for Emma, I believe? Lily mentioned it was your favorite. Emma nodded, impressed. Thank you. Miss. Parker waited until the server had poured their drinks and departed before speaking again. I imagine you have questions, Mr. Donovan. A few, Michael acknowledged, choosing his words carefully. Starting with why a 12-year-old girl was left alone on a frozen lake. Something like guilt flickered across Ms. Parker's composed features. I assure you Lily was not supposed to leave the resort unaccompanied. She has a tendency to slip away when she wants to. That doesn't explain why she's alone in a hotel while her guardian is overseas, Michael countered, his protective instincts flaring. Ms. Parker set down her teacup with a barely audible clink. Mr. We is a very busy man with global interests. Lily accompanies him during school holidays. Her regular residence is a boarding school in Switzerland. So she's shuttled between boarding schools and hotels? Michael couldn't keep the judgment from his voice. When does she get to be a child? That's not fair, Mr. Donovan, Mr. Nissus. Parker's voice sharpened. Mr. Way has provided Lily with every advantage since adopting her after her parents' deaths. The finest education, cultural experiences most children could never dream of. Dad! Look, Emma interrupted, pointing toward the window. Outside, fat snowflakes had begun to fall, swirling around the balcony in a sudden squall. It's beautiful, a soft voice said from the doorway. Lily stood there, her small frame swallowed by an oversized cashmere sweater. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat braid, and she wore plain jeans and fuzzy socks, looking for the first time, actually like a 12-year-old girl. Lily! Emma jumped up, then hesitated, unsure of the protocol. Lily solved the problem by crossing the room and giving Emma a quick, awkward hug. Thank you for coming. She turned to Michael with a formal little nod. Mr. Donovan, how are you feeling? He asked, searching her face for any lingering effects of yesterday's ordeal. Completely recovered, she assured him, taking a seat between Emma and Ms. Parker. To Dr. Reeves says I was very lucky. Not lucky, Miss Parker corrected gently. Fortunate that Mr. Donovan was there to help you. Lily's amber eyes fixed on Michael. Did you receive my guardian's token of appreciation? Michael shifted uncomfortably. Yes, but it was too much, Lily finished for him, a knowing look in her eyes. I told him you'd say that. Most people would have just taken it. Most people understand that gratitude can be expressed without extravagant gestures, Michael replied carefully. Me is... Parker cleared her throat. Perhaps Lily would like to show Emma her collection? While Mr. Donovan and I discuss a few matters? Lily brightened. Yes, I have so many books and games upstairs. Would you like to see? Mrs. Parker got me the new PlayStation Pro. Emma glanced at Michael for permission. He nodded, though not without a twinge of concern. Don't go anywhere else in the resort, okay? We'll just be in the penthouse, Lily assured him. You can see it too after you finish talking with Ms. Parker. The girls disappeared through a private elevator at the back of the lounge, whispering together like lifelong friends rather than recent acquaintances. Once they were gone, Parker's demeanor changed subtly. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Mr. Donovan, there are things you should understand about Lily's situation. Things that require discretion. Michael tensed. What kind of things? Lily is not an ordinary child. Her adoption by Mr. Barry was complicated. Her biological parents were involved in sensitive research. Their deaths were not accidental. The carefully constructed sentence hung in the air between them. Michael felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter weather outside. Let's say, what are you saying? Miss Parker glanced toward the door, then back. I'm saying that Lily's safety is paramount. Mister, we has enemies who would use her to get to him. Or worse, who might target her directly because of who her parents were. So the security detail, the isolation, necessary precautions, Ms. Parker finished, which is why her venture onto the lake yesterday was so alarming. She knows better than to go out alone. Michael recalled the text Lily had sent last night. She monitors my communications. Usually. A new suspicion formed. Did she plan it? He asked slowly. Going onto the lake, Mrs. Parker looked genuinely startled. What do you mean? I mean, did she deliberately put herself in danger? To, test someone? Or to escape something? The woman's composure faltered just for a moment. That's That would be extremely concerning if true. She studied Michael with new interest. You're more perceptive than I initially gave you credit for, Mr. Donovan. I've been raising a daughter on my own for 3 years, he said simply. You learn to read between the lines. Ms. Parker nodded slowly. Then you understand why Mr. Wei wishes to meet you. Your intervention wasn't just fortunate, it may have been providential. I don't follow. Lily needs stability, structure, someone she can trust who isn't on Mr. Wei's payroll. Miss. Parker's gaze was direct now, assessing. She has tutors for academics, coaches for athletics, instructors for music and art. What she lacks is someone who cares about her well-being simply because she's a child who deserves it. Michael felt a creeping sense of being manipulated, even as he recognized the truth in her words. What exactly is Mr. Wei proposing? He'll discuss that with you on Friday, Ms. Parker replied back to her professional tone. But I suspect it will involve a position that utilizes your evident paternal instincts while compensating you substantially better than factory work. The casual reference to his now former employment made Michael stiffen. You've been investigating me. Of course. Miss Parker didn't bother to deny it. Mr. Wei doesn't invite just anyone into his circle. And if I'm not interested in joining his circle, she smiled thinly, then you cash his check, keep the daughter's bracelet, and return to your life. No obligations, she paused meaningfully, though I think you'll find it difficult to simply walk away from Lily now. Michael wanted to deny it, but couldn't. Something about the girl, her old soul eyes, her peculiar mixture of maturity and vulnerability, had gotten under his skin. And judging by the way Emma had bonded with her so quickly, he wasn't the only one. Shall we join the girls? Miss Parker suggested, rising gracefully. The penthouse has quite a spectacular view of the snowstorm. The private elevator required a key card and fingerprint scan. As they ascended, Michael's ears popped slightly from the rapid change in altitude. Mr. Wei values his privacy, Ms. Parker explained, noticing his discomfort. The penthouse occupies the top 2 floors and has its own security measures. The elevator doors opened directly into what could only be called a great room, an enormous open space with 20-foot ceilings and glass walls that offered a 270-degree view of the lake and surrounding mountains. The snowstorm had intensified, creating a dramatic backdrop of swirling white against the darkening sky. Dad, Emma called, waving from a sunken seating area where she and Lily were sprawled amid plush cushions, a half-completed game of Scrabble between them. Lily's beating me by like 100 points. She's exaggerating, Lily said with a shy smile. It's only 87 points. Lily has always excelled at word games, Ms. Parker noted with something like pride. She speaks 5 languages fluently. Michael circled the vast room slowly, taking in details that spoke of wealth beyond his comprehension. Original artwork on the walls, furniture that looked both antique and somehow futuristic, technology that seemed to be integrated into the very architecture. Off to one side, a spiral staircase led to the upper level. My room is up there, Lily said, following his gaze. Would you like to see it? Before he could answer, the sleek panel on the wall chimed softly. Mezu. Parker touched it, revealing a video feed of the 2 security men from yesterday. Yes, Mr. Wei is calling for the daily check-in, one of them reported. He's asking to speak with Lily. Miss Sana. Parker checked her watch with a frown. That's earlier than usual. I'll bring her to the office. Please tell him 5 minutes. She turned to Michael and Emma with a practiced smile. I'm afraid we'll need to cut our visit a bit short. Mr. Wei is calling from Hong Kong. Of course, Michael said, noting how Lily's posture had changed at the mention of her guardian. Straighter, more formal, a mask slipping into place. Can they come back tomorrow? Lily asked, her voice carefully modulated. Miss Size. Parker hesitated. I'm not sure that's... Please, Lily said, a hint of desperation breaking through her composed facade. Emma is helping me with my photography project. For school. Emma blinked in surprise but quickly played along. Yeah, I was going to show her some techniques for low-light shots. For her assignment, Ms. Parker looked skeptical but seemed unwilling to contradict Lily directly. We'll see. It depends on tomorrow's schedule. I understand, Lily said formally, though her eyes sought Michael's with a silent plea. As they prepared to leave, Lily walked them to the elevator. While Mrs. Sins, Parker was distracted by a call on her phone. Lily pressed something small and cold into Michael's palm. For emergencies, she whispered. The code is 5847. Michael glanced down to see a small silver key card in his hand. He pocketed it quickly, unsure what to make of this development. Lily, Mr. We is waiting, Ms. Parker called. Coming. Lily squeezed Emma's hand. See you tomorrow? Definitely, Emma promised, returning the squeeze. In the elevator, Michael kept his face carefully neutral, though his mind was racing. What had Lily given him? And why did she think they might need emergency access to the penthouse? Mrs. Parker, he said as they reached the lobby. You mentioned that Lily's parents were involved in research. What kind of research? Something guarded flickered across her face. Advanced biotechnology. Genetic sequencing. It's all quite classified. And their deaths? You said they weren't accidental. Ms. Parker checked her surroundings before answering in a lowered voice. Industrial espionage is a blood sport in certain sectors, Mr. Donovan, especially when the stakes involve technology that could reshape human potential. Is Lily in danger? Michael asked bluntly. Not as long as she remains under Mr. Way's protection. Miss Parker's tone made it clear the conversation was over. We'll see you on Friday, Mr. Donovan. 7 o'clock sharp. Outside, the snowstorm had transformed the resort parking lot into a winter wonderland. Their footprints were the only blemish on the pristine white surface as they trudged to their car. Dad, that place was insane, Emma said once they were inside the vehicle. Lily's bathroom is bigger than our whole apartment. Michael nodded absently, his mind still on the key card burning a hole in his pocket and the strange undercurrents he'd sensed in every conversation. She's really smart, Emma continued, brushing snow from her hair. Like, scary smart. But also kind of sad, you know? She has all this stuff, but no friends. No real family. What did you talk about? Michael asked, starting the car and cranking up the defroster. Emma shrugged. Normal stuff at first. Books, games, music. But then she started asking weird questions. What kind of questions? Like, if we'd ever want to live somewhere else. If you had special skills besides construction and factory work. If I'd ever been out of the country, Emma frowned. It felt like she was interviewing us or something. Michael's unease deepened. Did she say anything about her guardian? About Mr. Way? Not really. She changed the subject whenever I asked about him. Emma hesitated. But she did say something strange when I admired her laptop. She said everything I own belongs to him, really. Even me, in a way. Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Something was very wrong with Lily's situation. Something beyond a busy guardian and an isolated childhood. Dad? Emma's voice cut through his thoughts. What's going on? Why are these people so interested in us? He wished he had a simple answer. I'm not sure, Em, but we're going to find out on Friday. Are you going to cash the check? Michael sighed, pulling onto the main road where snowplows had already cleared most of the accumulation. No, not until I understand what's really happening here. Good, Emma said with evident relief. Because Lily gave me something too, and I think it would be weird to take it if we also took the money. Michael glanced over sharply. What did she give you? Emma reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It looks like a bunch of random letters and numbers. She said to give it to you when we were alone, and that you'd know what to do with it. Michael pulled over to the shoulder of the road, heart pounding. He unfolded the paper under the dome light. At first glance, it did appear to be gibberish. Strings of characters with no obvious pattern, but something about the format tickled his memory from his brief stint in IT support years ago. This looked like encoded data, possibly base 64. Dad? Emma's voice sounded far away. What is it? Michael carefully refolded the paper and tucked it into his wallet. I think Lily is trying to tell us something. Something she can't say directly. Is she in trouble? I don't know, Michael admitted, but I think we should try to find out before Friday. As they pulled back onto the road, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. A quick check of the rearview mirror revealed a black SUV several car lengths behind, similar to the one that had appeared at their apartment yesterday. Dad? Emma had noticed his frequent glances at the mirror. Are we being followed? Maybe, he said, making a sudden turn onto a side street. The SUV continued straight ahead and Michael exhaled slowly. Probably just being paranoid. But he didn't really believe that. Something about this whole situation felt increasingly dangerous. Like they were being drawn into a web whose dimensions they couldn't yet perceive. Why would a 12-year-old girl give them an encoded message and an emergency keycard? What was she afraid of? And most troubling of all, if Lily truly feared something about her own guardian or situation, why had she deliberately sought them out by walking onto that frozen lake? The questions tumbled through Michael's mind as they drove home through the thickening snow, the taillights of other cars glowing red in the gathering darkness, like warning signals. What had started as a simple rescue was becoming something much more complex and potentially treacherous. And at the center of it all was a girl with amber eyes who seemed both helpless and calculating, vulnerable and manipulative. Could he trust anything about this situation? Or was he gambling not just with his own safety, but with Emma's as well? One thing was certain. He needed to decode Lily's message before Friday. Before he came face to face with the mysterious Mr. Wei, who paid $25,000 to strangers and left his young ward alone in luxury hotel penthouses while he conducted business overseas. The key card seemed to burn in his pocket, a physical reminder of the choice that lay before him. To walk away now or to step deeper into whatever labyrinth Lily Chen was inviting them to enter. Michael stared at his laptop screen, the encoded message from Lily taunting him with its secrets. After putting Emma to bed, he'd spent hours trying to decipher it, drawing on half-remembered knowledge from a community college programming course he'd taken years ago. It was definitely base 64 encoding. That much he'd figured out. But the decoded result was another layer of encryption, a jumble of symbols and percent signs that suggested a URL with additional encoding. His eyes burned from fatigue, but sleep felt impossible. The image of Lily's face when she'd slipped him the key card kept replaying in his mind. The mixture of fear and determination in those amber eyes. Whatever this message contained, she believed it was important enough to risk passing it to virtual strangers. A soft knock on his bedroom door pulled him from his thoughts. "Dad, are you still up?" Emma stood in the doorway, hair tousled from sleep, her mother's old flannel pajamas hanging loose on her small frame. "Hey, kiddo, couldn't sleep?" Michael saved his work and closed the laptop. Emma shook her head, padding across the room to sit beside him on the bed. "I keep thinking about Lily. Do you think she's okay?" Michael put his arm around her shoulders. "I'm sure she's safe in that fancy penthouse." "Not that kind of okay," Emma said, leaning against him. "She has everything except what really matters. No friends. No real family. Just tutors and security guards and Ms. Parker." The simple wisdom in her observation made Michael's chest tighten. Emma had lost her mother, but she'd never lacked for love. What would it be like to have every material advantage but no genuine connection? "We'll see her tomorrow," he promised, "and we'll figure out what's going on." Emma nodded against his shoulder. "I think she picked us on purpose." "What do you mean?" "The lake. I don't think it was an accident." Emma looked up at him, her expression serious beyond her years. "I think she was watching us from the resort and decided we were the right people to help her." The same suspicion had been forming in Michael's mind, but hearing it from Emma made it more real, more troubling. "That would be a dangerous gamble," he said carefully. "She could have died. Maybe she was desperate." Emma's voice was small. "Maybe whatever she's afraid of is worse than falling through ice." Michael had no answer for that. The possibility that a child would risk death to escape her circumstances was too horrifying to contemplate. "Try to get some sleep," he said instead, kissing the top of her head. "We'll sort this out, I promise." After Emma returned to her room, Michael reopened his laptop. With renewed determination, he attacked the coded message, working methodically through various decryption techniques until, finally around 3 a.m., the jumble of characters resolved into a recognizable URL. His pulse quickened. This looked like an internal system address, not something publicly accessible. But how was he supposed to use it? He needed more information. Maybe specialized software or network access. Michael rubbed his eyes, fatigue finally overtaking adrenaline. He'd have to find help, someone with more technical expertise than he possessed. But who could he trust with something that felt increasingly like industrial espionage? As he finally drifted towards sleep, one name surfaced from his memory. Jason Kwan, an old friend from his construction days, who now worked in cybersecurity. They hadn't spoken in years, but if anyone could help decipher this without asking too many questions, it would be Jason. Morning came too soon, gray light filtering through blinds that never quite closed properly. Michael moved through his usual routine on autopilot, making breakfast, checking that Emma had everything for school, trying not to think about the stack of bills on the counter or the job he no longer had. "Can we go see Lily right after school?" Emma asked, pouring too much syrup on her frozen waffles. "I need to meet someone first," Michael replied. "An old friend who might help us understand her message." Emma's eyes widened. "You figured it out?" "Part of it, but I need expert help for the rest." She nodded solemnly. "Be careful, Dad." I've been thinking, if Lily's parents were killed for their research and she knows something about it, then people might be dangerous, Michael finished, unsettled by his 12-year-old's grasp of the situation. I know. That's why we need to be smart about this. After dropping Emma at school, Michael drove to the coffee shop where he'd arranged to meet Jason. The small cafe near the university was busy enough to provide anonymity, but quiet enough for private conversation. Jason hadn't changed much in 5 years. Still rail-thin with perpetually messy hair, though the punk band t-shirts had been replaced by a neat button-down under a cardigan. His eyes widened in recognition as Michael approached his table. Mike Donovan, as I live and breathe. He stood for a quick, awkward hug. When you called, I thought my phone was glitching. How long has it been? Too long, Michael admitted, sliding into the booth across from him. Thanks for meeting me on such short notice. Hey, any excuse to escape the office. So what's this mysterious problem you need help with? You said it was complicated. Michael hesitated, suddenly aware of how bizarre the situation would sound. It's about a friend's daughter. She's in some kind of trouble, and she passed me an encoded message. Jason's eyebrows rose. And you immediately thought of your old buddy who used to hack the construction company's payroll system to correct their mistakes? Something like that, Michael smiled despite himself. Well, let's see what you got. Michael slid a piece of paper across the table with the original encoded text and the partially decoded URL. Jason studied it, his expression growing more serious. This is interesting, he said finally. It looks like a deep web address, possibly on a private server network. Where did you get this again? From a 12-year-old girl, Michael replied, watching Jason's reaction carefully. A 12? Jason broke off, shaking his head. You know what? I don't think I want details. But this isn't something a kid would come up with on their own. This is professional-grade encryption. Can you tell what it's for? Jason tapped the paper thoughtfully. Based on the structure, it's some kind of security override interface, possibly for a building system or network. The Way Systems part suggests it's company-specific. Way Systems, Michael repeated. As in Victor Way? Jason's head snapped up. Victor Way? The tech billionaire? Mike, what the hell have you gotten yourself into? It's complicated, Michael said, suddenly regretting involving his friend. Maybe this was a mistake. No, Jason leaned forward, lowering his voice. Listen, if this involves Way Consolidated, you need to be incredibly careful. They're known for aggressive corporate espionage and some seriously shady business practices. There are rumors about their overseas operations that would curl your hair. Michael's unease deepened. What kind of rumors? The kind that involve missing researchers and stolen intellectual property. Jason glanced around the cafe before continuing. Look, I don't know what your connection to Way is, but these people play hardball. They've been investigated for everything from human trafficking to illegal human experimentation, but nothing ever sticks. Way has too much money, too many connections. The coffee in Michael's stomach turned to acid. Human experimentation. Lily's parents had been researchers in biotechnology and genetic sequencing, fields that could easily intersect with such unethical practices. This girl, Jason said quietly, is she connected to Way somehow? She's his ward, Michael admitted. Allegedly, he adopted her after her parents died. Jason let out a low whistle. That adds up with what I've heard. Way supposedly acquires the children of scientists who worked on projects he's interested in. Some say it's for leverage. Others think it's to control hereditary intellectual property. Hereditary intellectual property? Michael repeated, confused. Think about it. If someone develops groundbreaking genetic research, their own DNA might contain valuable information. Their children would be walking repositories of potentially profitable genetic code. The implications were horrifying. Michael thought of Lily's amber eyes, so unusual in their color and intensity. Was she being kept by Way not out of benevolence, but as a living experiment? A genetic resource to be protected and exploited? I need to access whatever this URL leads to, Michael said with new urgency. Can you help me? Jason ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. It's not that simple. This would require specialized equipment, proxy servers to mask your identity. And even then, breaking into Way's systems would be incredibly risky. We're talking potential federal charges. I'm not asking you to break any laws, Michael clarified, just to point me in the right direction. After a moment's hesitation, Jason pulled out his phone and typed rapidly. I'm sending you a secure messaging app. Download it. I'll reach out to some people who might be able to help, discreetly. But Mike, you need to be careful. If Way is involved in what I think he is, people who get in his way tend to disappear. The warning hung between them as they finished their coffee. When they parted outside the cafe, Jason's handshake was firm, his expression grave. Whatever you're planning, think about the consequences. Not just for yourself. I have to help her, Michael said simply. Jason nodded, understanding in his eyes. The app is called Signal. I'll contact you there. And Mike? Good luck. The school day was ending when Michael pulled up to the curb. Emma bounded down the steps, her face brightening when she spotted him. Are we going to see Lily now? She asked, tossing her backpack onto the rear seat. Michael nodded. But things are more complicated than we thought. I need you to promise me something, Em. She buckled her seatbelt, suddenly serious. What? If anything feels wrong today, anything at all, we leave immediately. No questions, no arguments. You found out something bad, didn't you? Her voice was small. Just possibilities right now, he assured her. But we need to be cautious. The drive to the Lakeview Resort was tense, Michael's mind churning with everything Jason had told him. The glossy exterior of the hotel now seemed less impressive and more ominous. A gilded cage for a girl who might be valued more for her genetic code than her humanity. The same receptionist recognized them immediately. Ms. Parker left instructions. You're to go directly to the penthouse. Lily is expecting you. In the private elevator, Michael fingered the keycard in his pocket. Why had Lily given him emergency access? What did she expect might happen? The penthouse was quiet when they arrived, no sign of Lily or Ms. Parker, Emma called out, her voice echoing in the vast space. Lily, are you here? A soft thump from upstairs was the only response. Michael exchanged a worried glance with Emma before heading toward the spiral staircase. Lily, he called. It's Michael and Emma Donovan. They found her in what must have been a study or library, a room lined with bookshelves and dominated by a massive desk. Lily was kneeling beside an open panel in the wall, hastily pushing something inside as they entered. You came, she said, relief evident in her voice as she closed the panel. I wasn't sure if we'd figure out your message, Michael finished. We're working on it. Where's Ms. Parker? Conference call with Mr. Way. She'll be occupied for at least 30 minutes. Lily stood, brushing dust from her jeans. We don't have much time. Did you bring the key card? Michael nodded, still trying to process the situation. Lily, what's going on? Are you in some kind of danger? Her amber eyes held his, unflinching. We all are. Mr. Winai isn't who you think. He didn't adopt me out of kindness. He acquired me as an asset. The blunt confirmation of his fears sent a chill through Michael. Because of your parents' research? Because of what I am. Lily's voice was steady, matter of fact. My parents weren't just researching genetic enhancement. They were practicing it on me. I was their prototype. Their success, Emma gasped softly. What do you mean, what you are? Lily hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. She approached a potted plant near the window, a large ornamental fig. Without apparent effort, she lifted the entire pot, soil, plant, and heavy ceramic container, with one hand holding it suspended as easily as if it were a feather. Oh my God, Emma whispered. Enhanced strength is just the beginning, Lily said, setting the plant down gently. Accelerated healing, advanced cognitive processing, extended lifespan potential. My father called it the Genesis Protocol. It's all encoded in my cells now. Irreversible, inheritable traits that Mr. Way wants to control. Michael struggled to comprehend what he was seeing, what he was hearing. Your parents did this to you? Their own child? They believed they were creating a better future, Lily said, a complex mixture of emotions crossing her face. But their research was dangerous in the wrong hands. When they realized Wei was using their discoveries to develop bioweapons, they tried to destroy their work and flee with me. Her voice grew quieter. They didn't make it out of the laboratory. And Wei took you, Michael concluded, horror mounting with each revelation. Lily nodded. As the only living subject of the Genesis Protocol, I'm invaluable to him. He spent 8 years studying me, testing me, preparing to replicate the process in subjects he can control completely. That's monstrous, Michael said, his protective instincts flaring. Why did you let yourself fall through the ice? Emma asked suddenly. You did it on purpose, didn't you? A faint smile touched Lily's lips. You're very perceptive, Emma. Yes, it was deliberate, though the ice was thinner than I anticipated. I'd been watching you both for weeks from my window. I needed someone trustworthy, someone with nothing to gain from exploiting me. When I saw how you cared for each other, how you struggled but still found joy together, I knew you were my only chance. Chance for what? Michael asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. To escape, Lily said simply. Friday isn't just a meeting, Mr. Donovan. It's an extraction. Mr. We is returning with a team of specialists to move me to a new facility in Singapore. Once I leave the country, I'll disappear forever into one of his private research compounds. Michael felt sick. How can we help? He gestured helplessly around the opulent room. We don't have resources, connections. But you have the key card and the access code I gave you, Lily insisted. The code leads to a security override that can disable the tracking implant in my arm and the surveillance systems in this building. Without those, I have a chance to disappear. Tracking implant? Emma repeated, horrified. Lily pushed up her sleeve, revealing a small, barely visible scar on her forearm. Inserted when I was 5. It monitors my vitals, my location, even certain brain activities. As long as it's active, I can never truly escape. The sound of the elevator arriving interrupted their conversation. Lily's head snapped toward the door, her enhanced hearing picking up what the others couldn't yet detect. Mrs. Sir Parker, she whispered urgently. She's finished early. You need to act normal. We were just playing a game. She moved with astonishing speed, pulling a board game from a shelf and scattering pieces on the floor. Quickly, by the time Ms. Parker appeared in the doorway, the three of them were seated on the floor around a half-played game of Stratego. I see you're entertaining our guests, she said with a thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. Emma's really good, Lily replied with practiced casualness. She's beaten me twice already. Ms. Parker nodded, though Michael noticed her gaze sweeping the room, assessing. Had she noticed something amiss? I'm afraid we'll need to conclude this visit, she said. Lily has her piano lesson in 20 minutes, and Mr. Wei was quite insistent that her schedule remain undisturbed before his return. Of course, Michael said, rising to his feet. We don't want to interfere with her lessons. As they gathered their things, Lily managed one last whispered instruction while pretending to explain a game rule to Emma. Tomorrow. The URL. It's the only way. The ride home was silent, both Michael and Emma processing what they'd learned. It wasn't until they were safely inside their apartment that Emma finally spoke. We have to help her, Dad. We can't let them take her to that facility. Michael sank onto the sofa, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. I know, Em, but what she's asking us to do, it could be dangerous, possibly illegal. So is experimenting on children, Emma countered fiercely. So is killing scientists and kidnapping their daughter. She was right, of course. The moral equation wasn't complicated. But the practical realities taking on a billionaire with seemingly unlimited resources and questionable ethics, that was another matter entirely. His phone buzzed with a notification from the Signal app Jason had recommended. The message was brief. Found your needle in the digital haystack. It's legitimate. Needs specialized hardware to access. Can help tomorrow. Be careful. This goes deep. Michael stared at the message for a long moment, then at the silver key card sitting on his coffee table. Tomorrow would bring them one step closer to either saving Lily or entangling themselves in something far more dangerous than they could handle. Either way, there would be no turning back. The storage unit smelled of dust and forgotten things. Jason had insisted on meeting here rather than anywhere public, a precaution that only heightened Michael's anxiety about what they were about to attempt. You're sure Emma is safe? Jason asked, unpacking equipment from a battered laptop case. She's at her Aunt Karen's for the day, Michael confirmed. I told them we were going fishing, Jason snorted. If by fishing you mean hacking into one of the most secure private networks in the world, then sure, that tracks. The makeshift workspace looked like something from a spy movie, a tangle of cables connecting multiple devices, a portable router, and what Jason called a signal jammer to prevent anyone from tracking their location through cell towers. This is serious hardware, Michael observed. Where did you get all this? Jason's expression was grim. Let's just say I know people who are concerned about Way Consolidated's activities. People who've been monitoring them for years, gathering evidence. Evidence of what exactly? Human rights violations, illegal experimentation, corporate assassination. Jason connected the final cable with a sharp click. The kind of things that are hard to prove when the perpetrator has enough money to buy governments. Michael thought of Lily lifting that heavy plant pot with one hand, of the clinical way she described her parents' enhancement work and their deaths. I believe it, he said quietly. So this girl, Jason said, powering up a laptop with no identifying marks or logos. You're sure she's not manipulating you? Because Wei isn't the only player in this game. There are competing interests who would love to get their hands on that kind of research. She's 12, Jason. A 12-year-old who's been genetically enhanced and raised by a tech oligarch, Jason countered. Age doesn't mean innocent in this scenario. The possibility had occurred to Michael too, that Lily might be using them for her own ends that had nothing to do with escaping away for her freedom. But he kept coming back to the look in her eyes when she'd spoken about being an asset rather than a child. The subtle tremor in her voice when she mentioned the facility in Singapore. We're her only hope, he said simply. I have to try. Jason nodded, accepting if not entirely convinced. All right, let's see what this key card and URL give us access to. The next hour was a blur of technical jargon and tense silence as Jason worked to access the secure system. The keycard Lily had provided contained encrypted credentials that, when combined with the URL, opened a backdoor into Way Consolidated's internal network. She really knew what she was doing, Jason muttered, fingers flying across the keyboard. This is a developer access point, the kind of thing system architects build in for emergency maintenance. It bypasses the normal security protocols. Can you find the tracking system she mentioned? Working on it. There's a ton of subsystems here. Jason navigated through layers of interfaces, moving with the confidence of someone who'd broken into secure systems before. Wait, I think this is it. Biometric monitoring array. Looks like it's tracking multiple subjects, not just Lily. Michael leaned closer, staring at the screen where a dozen sets of vitals were displayed alongside location data. Each subject was identified only by a code name. Which one is Lily? Jason clicked on several entries before finding one labeled Genesis Prime. This has to be her. Location shows Lakeview Resort, and the biometric readings match what you'd expect for a 12-year-old girl. He pointed to several metrics. Except these: heart rate variability, neurochemical markers, cellular regeneration index. These are off the charts. Michael felt a renewed wave of horror at what had been done to Lily, at what was still being done to her. Can you disable the tracking? Not permanently from here, but I can, Jason typed rapidly, opening several command windows. I can set it to loop current data for a 12-hour period. It would make it look like she's still at the resort, following normal patterns, even if she's moved. Do it. As Jason worked, Michael examined the other data streams visible on the screen. Who are these other subjects? Hard to say without more context. Some appear to be adults, others children. Different enhancement protocols, probably. Jason's expression darkened. It's like they're running parallel experiments, testing different approaches. Michael remembered what Lily had said about being the only living subject of her parents' specific protocol. How many others had there been who hadn't survived? Got it, Jason announced finally. Tracking loop initiated. It'll start at 8 p.m. tonight and run until 8 a.m. tomorrow. That's your window. What about the building security? Lily mentioned surveillance systems. Jason navigated to another section of the interface. Here's the resort security network. I can disable the cameras and electronic locks on her floor for a 30-minute window, but it will definitely trigger alerts eventually. Schedule it for 8:15 p.m., Michael decided. That gives us 15 minutes after the tracking loop starts to get her out. Jason complied, then began the process of covering their digital tracks. Once I close this connection, we'll have no way to make further changes. The plan has to work as is. Michael nodded, the reality of what they were attempting finally sinking in. I understand. I've copied some of this data, Jason added, inserting a thumb drive into the laptop. My contacts will want to see evidence of what Way is doing. This could help build a case against him. Will that be enough? To stop him, Jason's laugh was hollow. Guys like Way don't go down easily. But it's a start. He handed Michael the thumb drive. Keep this safe. If something happens to me, get it to a journalist named Eliza Chen at the Tribune. She's been investigating Way for years. The gravity of that statement hung between them as Jason disconnected the equipment. In the space of days, Michael had gone from struggling factory worker to potential whistleblower against one of the most powerful men in the world. What are you going to do once you have her? Jason asked as they packed up. Way isn't going to just let his prize experiment disappear. I don't know yet, Michael admitted. Get her somewhere safe first, then figure out the rest. You should take the money, Jason advised. The check he sent you. Cash it, use it to run. You'll need resources. Michael had been wrestling with that very question. Taking Way's money felt wrong, but practical concerns couldn't be ignored. Emma's future, their survival, the resources needed to help Lily, all of it required funds they didn't have. I'll think about it, he said finally. As they parted ways outside the storage facility, Jason clasped his shoulder firmly. Be careful tonight. These people don't play by normal rules. I know. And Jason, thank you for everything. Don't thank me yet, his friend replied grimly. Thank me when you're all safely away from Victor Way's reach. The apartment was quiet when Michael returned. He had hours before he needed to pick up Emma from her aunt's. Hours to prepare for what might be the most dangerous night of his life. He sat at the kitchen table, the check for $25,000 before him, turning the corner of the paper over and over between his fingers. After a long internal debate, he came to a decision. He would cash it, not for himself, but for Emma and Lily. Whatever moral qualms he had about taking Way's money were outweighed by the practical necessity of having resources to escape. At the bank, the teller raised an eyebrow at the amount, but processed the transaction without comment. Michael opened a new account under just his name, separate from the joint account he shared with Emma, and deposited most of the funds there. $5,000 he took in cash, dividing it between various pockets and his emergency kit, a habit from his days working disaster relief in Louisiana. Next, he packed a small duffel with essentials for himself and Emma. Changes of clothes, toiletries, her medication for seasonal allergies, the photo album with pictures of Sarah that Emma treasured. Basic survival gear went into a separate backpack. First aid supplies, water purification tablets, emergency blankets, a multi-tool. Preparations that would have seemed paranoid just days ago now felt woefully inadequate. His final stop before picking up Emma was the apartment complex office, where he paid the next month's rent in advance. Whatever happened tonight, he didn't want to worry about Emma having a home to return to if things went wrong. Karen's house smelled of chocolate chip cookies when he arrived. His sister-in-law had always been good to them, stepping in when Sarah died to provide Emma with a maternal figure. He felt a pang of guilt for involving her, even peripherally, in what he was planning. You two have fun fishing? She asked, hugging Emma goodbye. Caught a couple of nice ones, Michael lied, hating the deception but seeing no alternative. Well, you'll have to bring some by next time. Emma and I made cookies if you want to take some home. Emma clutched the bag of cookies to her chest in the car, her expression serious beyond her years. We're not coming back, are we? Not for a while, at least. Sometimes Michael forgot how perceptive his daughter was. I don't know, Em. I hope so, but things might get complicated. Because we're helping Lily escape. It wasn't a question. Yes, and because the man who has her is dangerous? Emma nodded slowly. I packed a bag. It's under my bed. Just the important stuff, like you taught me for emergency drills. Michael's heart swelled with pride and ached with sorrow simultaneously. No 12-year-old should have to think about emergency evacuations and escape plans. But then, no 12-year-old should have been subjected to genetic experimentation or tracked like an animal either. That was smart, he told her. We'll grab it when we get home. The plan was simple in theory, though fraught with potential complications. At 8 p.m., Lily's tracking implant would begin transmitting looped data. At 8:15, the security systems on her floor would go offline for 30 minutes. During that window, Michael would use the key card to access the penthouse, help Lily escape, and bring her to a motel on the outskirts of town where Emma would be waiting with their packed bags. From there, they would drive through the night, crossing state lines before anyone realized Lily was missing. Jason had provided a burner phone and fake IDs, where he'd gotten them, Michael didn't ask, that would help them stay under the radar. What if something goes wrong, Emma asked as they finalized the details in their apartment. What if they catch you? Michael knelt before her, hands on her thin shoulders. If I'm not at the motel by 9:30, you call this number. He handed her a piece of paper with Jason's contact information. He'll help you get somewhere safe. Emma's eyes welled with tears. I don't want to do this without you. It won't come to that, he promised, pulling her into a tight hug. But we need to be prepared for every possibility. At 7 p.m., they left the apartment for what might be the last time. Emma's backpack and the emergency duffel were stowed in the trunk. Michael had left the rent check on the kitchen counter, along with a vague note about family emergency travel that wouldn't raise immediate alarms, but would eventually provide some explanation for their absence. The motel was exactly the kind of place that didn't ask questions when a man paid cash for a room and didn't offer a credit card for incidentals. The room was clean but sparse. 2 beds with faded floral spreads, a television that probably still had manual dials, a bathroom with rust stains around the drain. Lock the door behind me, Michael instructed Emma. Don't open it for anyone but me. If someone tries to force their way in, use the fire escape and run to the diner across the street. Ask for help there. Emma nodded, her face pale but determined. Be careful, Dad. Please. I will. He hugged her one last time, memorizing the feel of her in his arms, the scent of her hair. I'll be back with Lily before you know it. The Lakeview Resort glowed against the night sky, its windows illuminated like a cruise ship docked on the shore of the frozen lake. Michael parked in the far corner of the lot, away from security cameras, and pulled a dark knit cap over his hair. The cold bit through his jacket as he approached the building from the service entrance side, avoiding the main lobby. His watch read 8:12 p.m., 3 minutes until the security systems would go offline. The key card felt heavy in his pocket, a tangible link to the girl who had trusted him with her freedom, perhaps her life. At exactly 8:15, Michael swiped the card at the service entrance door. The light flashed green, and the lock disengaged with a soft click. He was in. The service corridor was deserted, just as Jason had predicted based on the staff schedules he'd accessed. Michael moved quickly but cautiously toward the private elevator that would take him to the penthouse. His heart pounded so loudly he was certain anyone nearby would hear it. The elevator required both the key card and the numeric code Lily had provided, 5847. The door slid open silently, and Michael stepped inside, pressing the button for the penthouse level. As the elevator ascended, he checked his watch again. 8:19. 26 minutes left in their window. When the doors opened directly into the penthouse, Michael froze momentarily. The vast room was dark except for a single lamp near the spiral staircase. There was no sign of Lily or anyone else. Lily? He called softly, moving toward the stairs. It's Michael. It's time to go. A shadow detached itself from the darkness near the staircase. But it wasn't Lily. Miss. Parker stood there, arms crossed over her chest, expression impossible to read in the dim light. Mr. Donovan, she said, her voice deadly calm. I was wondering when you'd make your move. Michael's blood ran cold. Where's Lily? Secure. As she should be, Miss. Parker took a step forward. Did you really think it would be so easy? That a child, however gifted, could outsmart the security systems designed specifically to contain her? She deserves freedom, Michael said, his mind racing to understand what had gone wrong. Had Jason's hack failed? Had they been monitoring their communication somehow? Freedom, Ms. Parker repeated as if tasting the word. Such a simplistic concept. Lily isn't a normal child, Mr. Donovan. She's the future of human evolution, carefully cultivated. Her potential is beyond your comprehension. She's a human being, Michael countered, edging sideways, looking for any sign of Lily, any opportunity to salvage the situation. Not a laboratory specimen. She's both, Ms. Parker said coldly, and far too valuable to be allowed to wander free in a world that would either fear her abilities or exploit them for war. A soft sound from above drew both their gazes. Lily stood at the top of the spiral staircase, her small figure outlined against the darkness. There was something different about her posture, a new tension, a coiled energy. Lily, Mrs. Son, Parker said sharply, return to your room. Now, no! The single word echoed in the vast space. I'm leaving with Mr. Donovan. That isn't possible, Ms. Parker's voice hardened. The tracking override failed. Security has already been alerted. They're on their way up now. Michael's heart sank. Emma waiting alone at the motel. Jason's warnings about Way's reach. The check he'd cashed, leaving a paper trail. It's over, Mr. Donovan, Miss Sitsurish, said pretty assured was. Parker continued, the best thing you can do now is leave. Forget Lily, forget everything you've learned. Take Way's money and build a better life for your daughter. That option is still available to you for now. The threat was unmistakable. Michael looked up at Lily, saw the desperation in her amber eyes, the silent plea. I'm not leaving without her, he said firmly. Miss. Parker sighed, a sound of genuine regret. Then you leave me no choice. She reached into her jacket pocket and withdrew a small device that looked like a remote control. Lily, you know what this is. You know what it will do to you. Fear flashed across Lily's face. Real fear, not the calculated emotion Michael had sometimes glimpsed in their previous encounters. Neural suppression, she whispered. Please don't. Then come down and go to your room, Miss, Parker commanded. Last chance. For a moment, the tableau held, Lily poised at the top of the stairs, Ms. Parker with her finger hovering over the device, Michael caught between them. Then with movement almost too fast to follow, Lily vaulted over the staircase railing. She dropped the full height of the two-story room, landing with cat-like grace beside Michael. Before Ms. Parker could react, Lily lunged forward and knocked the device from her hand, sending it skittering across the marble floor. "Run!" Lily shouted to Michael, already sprinting toward the elevator. "Mrs. Saunders." Parker recovered quickly, reaching for something else in her pocket. A small black object that Michael recognized with horror as a pistol. "Stop, both of you," she commanded, leveling the weapon at them. "Security will be here in seconds." Michael's military training kicked in. He feinted left, then drove forward, catching Miss Parker's gun arm and forcing it upward. The weapon discharged with a deafening crack, the bullet embedding itself in the ceiling. They grappled for control, Ms. Parker surprisingly strong for her slight build. But Michael had weight and desperation on his side. He managed to twist the gun from her grasp and shove her away, sending her stumbling backward into an ornate side table. "Michael," Lily called from the elevator, holding the doors open. "Hurry!" He ran to join her, the gun still clutched in his hand. As the elevator doors began to close, he caught a final glimpse of Miss Parker, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead, her expression not of anger, but of something like sad resignation. "They'll be waiting in the lobby," Lily said as the elevator descended. "We need another way out." Michael jabbed the button for the garage level. "Can you override the security down there?" "Yes, if we can reach my guardian's private exit. He has a separate garage for his personal vehicles." Lily's breathing was controlled, her movements precise despite the chaos. "The keycard will access it." The elevator slowed, then stopped at the garage level. Michael tensed, ready for confrontation. But when the doors opened, the concrete expanse before them was empty of people. Rows of luxury vehicles gleamed under fluorescent lights. "This way," Lily directed, moving swiftly between cars toward a secured door at the far end. "Mr. Way's private collection is through there." They had almost reached the door when the elevator chimed behind them. Security personnel poured out, shouting commands to stop. "Run!" Michael pushed Lily ahead of him, using his body to shield her as they sprinted the final distance. The keycard worked, the door clicking open just as the first security guard reached them. Michael shoved Lily through, then turned to face their pursuers. The gun in his hand gave them pause, just enough time for him to back through the door and slam it shut. "Lock it," he urged Lily, who was already typing a code into the inside panel. "Done," she confirmed as magnetic bolts engaged. "But it won't hold them long." The private garage was smaller, housing just 3 vehicles: a Bentley, a Ferrari, and a nondescript black SUV. Lily headed straight for the SUV. "The keys should be in a lockbox by the door," she said. "Code 9371. Michael found the box, entered the code, and retrieved a set of keys with the Range Rover logo. "You seem to know a lot about Way's security systems." "I've been planning this escape for years," Lily said simply, "waiting for the right opportunity, the right people to help me." The SUV started with a purr of expensive engineering. Michael navigated toward the exit ramp, aware that every second counted now. Behind them, he could hear pounding on the secured door they'd come through. "There's a service exit that leads directly to the back road," Lily directed. "Left at the next junction." The garage door opened automatically as they approached, sensors detecting the vehicle's signature. Then they were out in the cold night air, accelerating away from the Lakeview Resort and whatever fate had awaited Lily there. Michael checked his watch, 8:37. Less than an hour since the plan had gone into motion, though it felt like a lifetime. He dialed Emma's number on the burner phone Jason had provided. "Dad?" Her voice was tight with worry. "I've got her. We're on our way. Be ready to leave as soon as we arrive." "Thank God," Emma breathed. "Are you both okay?" Michael glanced at Lily, who sat unnaturally still in the passenger seat, her amber eyes fixed on the road ahead. "We're fine. See you soon." As he ended the call, Lily finally spoke. "I'm sorry for putting you in danger. Both of you." "You did what you had to do," Michael said. "We all did. They won't stop looking for me," she warned. "Ever." Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Then we'll just have to disappear better than they can search." For the first time since he'd met her, Lily smiled. A real smile, not the calculated expression she sometimes wore. "I believe we might actually succeed, especially with the contents of the hidden compartment in this vehicle." "Hidden compartment?" Lily reached beneath her seat and pulled a lever. A panel in the center console slid open, revealing a stack of documents and what looked like several banded bundles of cash. "Mr. Way always keeps emergency resources in his vehicles," she explained. "Passports, cash, alternate identities. The tools of a man who sometimes needs to disappear quickly." Michael stared at the revealed cash, realization dawning. "You chose this vehicle on purpose." "Of course." There was that old soul look again, the calculation behind those amber eyes. "I told you, Mr. Donovan, I've been planning this for years. As they sped through the night toward Emma and whatever uncertain future awaited them, Michael found himself wondering, not for the first time, who exactly he had rescued from that frozen lake. A vulnerable child? A genetically enhanced marvel? Or something altogether more complex and potentially dangerous? Only time would tell. For now, they had to focus on staying ahead of Victor Way and his resources. A race that had only just begun, with stakes higher than Michael had ever imagined possible. 300 miles and 7 hours after leaving the Lakeview Resort, Michael pulled the SUV into a truck stop outside Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Dawn was breaking, pale light seeping into a sky heavy with the promise of snow. Both girls were asleep. Emma curled against the rear door, Lily sitting perfectly upright, her head tilted at an angle that would have been uncomfortable for an ordinary child. He studied her in the rearview mirror, this strange, powerful girl who had upended their lives in the span of days. Even in sleep, she maintained that eerie composure, that sense of contained energy. What was she dreaming about? Did genetically enhanced children dream like normal ones? Michael rubbed his gritty eyes, fatigue making his thoughts wander. They'd driven through the night, switching vehicles twice. First abandoning Way's SUV at the motel where Emma had waited, then trading Michael's Subaru for a used Honda that Jason had arranged through contacts he refused to name. The Honda had taken them across state lines before they'd switched again to this nondescript Chrysler minivan with Minnesota plates. Each transition had been executed with military precision, partly thanks to Michael's training, but mostly due to Lily's meticulous planning. She had known exactly where to abandon vehicles to avoid surveillance cameras, which back roads to take to evade highway toll records, even how to disable the tracking features in their phones. "You need rest," a soft voice said, startling him. In the mirror, Lily's amber eyes were open, watching him with unnerving intensity. "I'm fine," Michael replied automatically. "We should keep moving. Your reaction time is declining. Your pupils show fatigue dilation. And you've missed the optimal turn for our route twice in the last hour." Michael sighed. Sometimes he forgot he was dealing with a child who could apparently monitor his physiological responses better than he could himself. "Just a quick stop then. Fuel for the car, food for us." Lily nodded, reaching over to gently wake Emma. We're stopping. You should use the restroom while we have the chance." Emma blinked awake, disoriented for a moment before remembering their situation. "Where are we?" "Iowa," Michael answered, parking at the far edge of the lot away from security cameras. "We need to change our appearance before going inside." "Lily, there's hair dye and scissors in the emergency bag." The truck stop bathroom was grimy but private. Emma went first, emerging with her long brown hair cut to shoulder length and dyed a dark auburn. She'd also changed into clothes they'd purchased at a 24-hour Walmart 3 states back, a style completely unlike her usual preferences. Lily's transformation was more dramatic. Her distinctive dark hair was now blonde, cut in a pixie style that emphasized her delicate features, but also made her look older somehow. With glasses from the convenience section and a deliberately slouched posture, she became nearly unrecognizable. Michael's own disguise was simpler: a baseball cap, glasses, and several days of stubble that altered his usual clean-cut appearance. He'd also changed into workers' coveralls that suggested he was a long-haul trucker, just another anonymous face in the stream of travelers. "Remember," he cautioned as they entered the truck stop, "we're the Fletcher family. I'm Jim, you're Abby," he nodded to Emma, "and you're Caitlin to Lily. We're driving to Minnesota to visit your grandmother. If anyone asks, which they won't." The truck stop was busy with the morning rush. Travelers grabbing coffee, truckers finishing overnight hauls, locals picking up breakfast. No one paid them any special attention as they gathered supplies, prepared sandwiches, bottled water, toiletries, and a local newspaper that Michael tucked under his arm. While the girls used the restroom, Michael scanned the newspaper headlines, looking for any mention of Lily's disappearance. Nothing yet, but that didn't mean they weren't being hunted. We would use private resources first, keeping the search out of official channels for as long as possible. His burner phone vibrated with a text from Jason. "Package received by friend at newspaper. Stay dark for 72 hours. Then check drop. Good news, at least." The thumb drive with evidence of Way's human experimentation had made it to the journalist. Whether it would be enough to provide them any protection remained to be seen. Back in the minivan, they ate in silence, the reality of their situation settling over them like a heavy blanket. They were fugitives now, Michael having effectively kidnapped a billionaire's ward, Emma torn from her school and friends, Lily fleeing the only life she'd known since her parents' deaths. What happens now? Emma finally asked, voicing the question that hung in the air. Michael had been asking himself the same thing all night. Their immediate plan had been escape. They hadn't thought much beyond that first crucial step. We need somewhere to hide, he said. Somewhere off the grid at least until we see what happens with the evidence Jason sent to the press. Way has properties and surveillance capabilities in every major city, Lily informed them, methodically organizing the wrappers from her meal. His corporate networks extend throughout North America, Europe, and Asia. Traditional hiding places would be compromised within days. Not helpful, Lily, Emma muttered. I'm being realistic, Lily replied without rancor. But I do have a suggestion. There's a place my parents mentioned in their research journals. A community of scientists who rejected corporate funding and institutional constraints. They live off-grid in the mountains of Wyoming, continuing their work outside the conventional system. Michael frowned. How do you know about your parents' journals? I thought Way took everything. A faint smile touched Lily's lips. He did. But I have perfect recall. I memorized their journals before they were confiscated. Of course you did, Emma said. But there was admiration in her voice rather than skepticism. How would we find this community? Michael asked. And why would they help us? They called themselves the Prometheus Collective, Lily explained. Their founding philosophy was that scientific advancement should benefit humanity, not corporate interests or military applications. My parents considered joining them before Way recruited them with promises of unlimited funding and resources. They regretted that decision later. But how do we find them? Michael pressed. If they're off-grid by design, they won't be easy to locate. I have coordinates, Lily said simply, and a recognition protocol that my mother created. If any of the original members are still there, they'll remember Dr. Helen Chen. They might help us for her sake. Michael considered their options. Every conventional path seemed fraught with risk. Way's influence extended through law enforcement, government agencies, private security firms. A community of scientists deliberately operating outside that system might be their best hope, if they existed and if they could be trusted. It's worth trying, he decided. But Wyoming is at least 2 more days of driving, and we need rest first. There's a motel at the next exit, Emma suggested, checking the navigation app on the burner phone. Looks small, family-owned. The kind of place that might take cash and not ask too many questions. The Prairie Wind Motel was exactly that. A single-story structure with 12 units arranged in an L shape around a gravel parking lot. The office was staffed by an elderly woman who barely looked up from her romance novel as Michael paid for a room with cash, giving the false name from their cover story. Room 8, end of the row, she said, sliding a physical key across the counter. Checkout's at 11. No parties, no smoking inside. The room was basic but clean. 2 double beds, a bathroom with a shower that worked better than expected, and thick curtains that blocked the morning light. They took turns showering, washing away the tension and sweat of their overnight flight. I'll take first watch, Michael announced when they'd all changed into clean clothes. You two get some sleep. Emma collapsed onto one of the beds, exhaustion finally overcoming her. But Lily stood by the window, peering through a small gap in the curtains at the parking lot beyond. They're still searching for me in the wrong direction, she said quietly. How do you know? She tapped her temple. I can still sense the tracking implant. It's been deactivated for external monitoring, but it's still functional. The neural link works both ways. They designed it to track me, but I've learned to use it to track them. Their search teams are moving east. They haven't figured out we changed direction yet? Michael stared at her, once again confronted with the uncanny abilities that set her apart. How is that even possible? Lily turned from the window, her expression serious. The Genesis protocol wasn't just about physical enhancement. My parents were working on the next evolution of human consciousness, expanded neural capacity, heightened perception, perhaps even limited forms of what you might call telepathy. The ability to sense and interpret electromagnetic fields generated by technology and theoretically by other enhanced humans. That sounds like science fiction, Michael said, though after everything he'd witnessed, he wasn't sure where to draw the line between possibility and fantasy anymore. Most scientific breakthroughs do, until they become reality. Lily sat on the edge of the second bed, suddenly looking very much like the child she was. I should rest too. My enhanced metabolism allows me to function with less sleep than normal humans, but the stress of escape has depleted my reserves. Michael nodded. taking a position in the chair by the door. Get some sleep. I'll wake you if anything changes. As Lily settled onto the bed, she added softly, "Thank you, Michael, for believing me, for helping me." Most people would have walked away. "Most people haven't seen their daughter connect with someone who needs help," he replied. "Emma saw something in you right away. She has good instincts." A faint smile touched Lily's lips. "Like her father." Then she closed her eyes, her breathing immediately settling into the regular rhythm of sleep. Michael watched over the two girls, so different, yet increasingly bonded by their shared ordeal. Emma, ordinary in the best possible ways, with her mother's compassion and determination. Lily, extraordinary in ways that defied conventional understanding, bearing burdens no child should have to carry. He thought of Sarah, wondering what she would make of their current situation. She'd always been the moral compass of their family, unfailingly able to discern right from wrong, even in complex situations. She would have helped Lily without hesitation, he knew. But she also would have worried about the danger to Emma, as he did now. The hours passed quietly. Michael alternated between watching the parking lot, checking news sites on the burner phone for any mention of their situation, and simply observing the sleeping girls. Around noon, Emma stirred, blinking up at him with momentary confusion before remembering where they were. "Any problems?" she whispered, careful not to wake Lily. Michael shook his head. "All quiet, but we should move again after dark." Emma nodded, climbing out of bed to sit beside him. "I'm scared, Dad," she admitted quietly. "Not just about the danger, but about everything. Will we ever go home? Can I finish school? What happens to us now?" The question struck at Michael's deepest fears. That in saving Lily, he had irrevocably altered his daughter's future, robbing her of stability and normalcy. "I don't know exactly what comes next," he answered honestly, "but we'll figure it out together. The important thing is that we did the right thing. Lily needed us." "I know." Emma glanced at the sleeping girl. "It's weird, but I feel like I've known her forever, like we were supposed to meet somehow. Is that crazy?" Michael thought about the seemingly random events that had brought them to that frozen lake at precisely the moment Lily had orchestrated her accident. "Not crazy," he said. "Just part of a pattern we don't fully understand yet." Around 4 p.m., Lily woke suddenly, sitting bolt upright, with an alertness that suggested she hadn't been deeply asleep at all. "Something's changed," she announced. "There's increased chatter on Wade's secure channels." "They found the abandoned SUV." Michael tensed. "How do you know that?" "I told you, I can sense the implant's activity. When they're actively searching for me, it creates a distinctive pattern." She closed her eyes, concentrating. "They're expanding the search radius." And her expression darkened. "Mr. We has returned early from Hong Kong. He's personally directing the search now." "That's bad, isn't it?" Emma asked, looking between them. "Very," Lily confirmed. "He won't stop until he finds me. And he has resources beyond what you can imagine." Michael made a quick decision. "We leave now. Pack up." They were on the road within 15 minutes, heading west on back highways to avoid the major interstates where surveillance would be heaviest. The mood in the minivan was tense, all of them aware that the stakes had just increased significantly. "Tell me about Victor Way," Michael said as they crossed into Nebraska under a darkening sky. "Not the public version, but who he really is. What drives him?" Lily was quiet for so long that Michael thought she might not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice had a hollow quality that sent chills down his spine. He was born in rural China to a family of subsistence farmers. His intelligence was identified early, and he was taken to a special government school for gifted children. By 16, he had multiple patents in telecommunications technology. By 20, he had emigrated to America and founded his first company. The public story says he's a self-made billionaire who revolutionized global communications. "And the real story," Emma prompted. "The real Victor Way believes humanity is inherently flawed and requires guidance, control, to reach its potential. He sees himself as one of the few truly superior minds capable of providing that control. My parents' research attracted him because he saw it as a way to create a ruling class, genetically enhanced humans loyal to him who would help implement his vision of a correctly ordered world." "That sounds like eugenics," Michael said, disgusted. "Like something from the darkest chapters of history." "It is," Lily agreed, "but wrapped in the language of progress and technological evolution. He's careful to keep his true objectives hidden behind philanthropy and innovation. Only those in his inner circle know what he really believes, that ordinary humans are essentially obsolete, awaiting replacement by enhanced versions. And you were supposed to be the prototype, Emma concluded. The first of these superior humans, Lily nodded. My parents thought they were creating treatments for genetic diseases, ways to eliminate suffering. When they discovered Wei's actual plans, they tried to destroy their research and escape with me. They failed, but they managed to encode warnings into their final research notes. Notes that only someone with my cognitive abilities could fully interpret. So Wei keeps you close because you're the key to completing their work, Michael reasoned. And because I'm living proof that the Genesis Protocol succeeds, Lily added, my existence proves human enhancement is possible. With access to my genetic material and proper analysis, Wei's scientists could eventually replicate the process, create more like me, but without my parents' ethical constraints built into the procedure. The implications were staggering. Not just a runaway child, but potentially the pivot point for humanity's future. A genetic template that in the wrong hands could lead to unprecedented power imbalances and control. No wonder he's coming after you himself, Michael murmured. It's not just about me anymore, Lily said, looking meaningfully at Emma and then Michael. By helping me escape, you've made yourselves targets too. Wei doesn't tolerate interference with his plans, especially not from ordinary humans he considers beneath him. The warning hung in the air as they drove through the gathering darkness, the headlights illuminating an empty road stretching toward mountains that were still hundreds of miles away. Their destination, the mysterious Prometheus Collective, seemed increasingly like a desperate gamble rather than a solid plan. Around midnight, they stopped at another anonymous roadside motel, following the same precautions as before, paying cash, using false names, parking away from cameras. This time, Michael took the bed closest to the door while Emma and Lily shared the second bed, the two girls whispering together long after they should have been asleep. Michael caught fragments of their conversation, normal 12-year-old topics like favorite books, and music mixed with decidedly abnormal discussions of genetic modification ethics and neural enhancement theory. Despite everything, a friendship was forming between them, bridging the vast divide between ordinary and extraordinary. He checked the burner phone one last time before trying to sleep, finding a cryptic message from Jason. Story breaks tomorrow. Be ready for fallout. The journalist had moved faster than expected. By this time tomorrow, Victor Wei's secret research would be exposed to the world. Whether that would make their situation better or worse remained to be seen. As Michael drifted toward uneasy sleep, one question continued to circle in his mind. What would happen to Lily once this was over? If they succeeded in exposing Wei and protecting her from his reach, where would she go? What place existed in the world for a genetically enhanced child with abilities beyond normal human capacity? The answer came to him just before consciousness faded. She would stay with them. Somehow, in the span of less than a week, Lily Chen had become as much his responsibility as Emma was. Not just a child to rescue, but a child to protect, to guide, to help find her place in a world that wasn't ready for what she represented. It should have been a frightening realization. Instead, it felt right, as if the frozen lake had brought them together not by chance, but by some deeper design. As if saving Lily had always been part of his purpose, a mission he hadn't known he was waiting for. His last conscious thought was of Sarah, and the certainty that she would have approved. The headline blazed across Michael's phone screen as they huddled in a booth at a rural diner on the Nebraska-Wyoming border. Exclusive tech billionaire linked to illegal human experimentation. Below it, a photo of Victor Wei at a charity gala, his expression carefully composed into a benevolent smile. The journalist, Eliza Chen, had done her job thoroughly. The piece laid out the evidence from the thumb drive, internal documents showing Wei consolidated secret research programs, financial records of payoffs to government officials, coded references to enhanced subjects who had not survived various procedures. Most damning were the records concerning Lily herself, labeled throughout as Genesis Prime, documenting years of tests conducted without oversight or ethical constraints. The evidence is compelling, Michael said, but Wei's already issuing denials. His PR team is calling it industrial sabotage, fake documents created by competitors. What about the other children? Lily asked quietly. Did they mention them? Michael nodded grimly. 7 other enhanced subjects are referenced. None survived beyond initial testing phases. Lily closed her eyes briefly, a wave of sorrow passing over her face. They were like me, attempts to replicate what my parents achieved. But without the proper protocols, the enhancements were unstable. As they pulled onto the highway, Lily suddenly stiffened in the back seat, Something's changed, she said. The tracking pattern, it's different, more focused. It's like they've amplified the signal somehow. Can they track us through it? Emma asked, worry evident in her voice. Not precisely, but they can narrow the search radius. Lily's expression grew troubled. And there's something else. I think Wei might be using another enhanced subject to track me. I thought you said the others didn't survive, Michael said, alarmed. The children didn't, but there were adult subjects too. Volunteers from his security team who received limited enhancements. Not the full Genesis protocol, but enough to give them certain capabilities. Lily closed her eyes, concentrating. I can sense one of them now. The neural patterns are distinctive. How close? Michael demanded, accelerating slightly. Still distant, but closing. We need to reach the Prometheus Collective soon. They'll have countermeasures, ways to shield against Wei's technology. They drove in tense silence for hours, stopping only when absolutely necessary. At each stop, Lily would check the unseen signals from her implant, tracking the pursuit that only she could sense. They're gaining, she announced as they crossed into Wyoming around mid-afternoon. The enhanced tracker has a stronger signal now. Within 100 miles, I think. Michael gripped the steering wheel tighter. How much farther to the coordinates? Emma checked the navigation app. About 3 hours, assuming the roads are clear in the mountains. We might not have 3 hours, Lily said quietly. The pursuit pattern has changed again. They're moving faster now. Michael made a quick decision. We need to split up. What? Emma's voice rose in alarm. Dad, no. Just temporarily, he assured her. We're too easy to track together. One vehicle, main roads. He pointed to a small town appearing on the horizon. There's our chance. We separate briefly, then rendezvous at the coordinates. The town of Clearwater was barely more than a junction. A gas station, a small general store, a diner, and a farm supply outlet. Michael pulled into the gas station, mind racing through possibilities. Here's what we do, he said. I'll create a diversion, drawing attention to myself. Emma, you and Lily find alternate transportation heading north on Route 16. I'll meet you at these coordinates in 6 hours. The bus, Lily suggested, pointing to a weathered sign advertising twice daily service to mountain communities. Next departure is in 20 minutes. If I'm not there in 6 hours, Michael added, pressing the remaining cash in one of the burner phones into Emma's hand. Call this number. He wrote down Jason's contact information. He'll help you reach the collective. Dad, Emma began, her voice breaking. We'll be together again soon, he promised, pulling her into a quick, fierce hug. Take care of each other. Using some of the cash he'd kept back, Michael approached a group of long-haul truckers in a diner. Looking for a ride west, he said to a weathered man who looked to be in his 60s. Can pay in cash, no questions asked. The trucker, who introduced himself only as Hal, agreed to drop him at a junction near Rawlins. From there, Michael acquired a used snowmobile at a pawn shop, along with winter gear and basic survival supplies. About 10 miles into the wilderness, Michael heard the distinctive thrum of helicopter rotors. He killed the engine and concealed himself under pine trees as the aircraft passed directly overhead, searchlights sweeping the terrain below in methodical patterns. It circled the area twice before continuing northwest, toward the very coordinates Michael was heading for. They had figured out where Lily was going. Somehow, Wei's enhanced trackers had identified the Prometheus Collective as their destination. The landscape grew increasingly wild as he climbed higher into the mountains. The snowmobile struggled on steeper inclines, forcing Michael to dismount and push it through particularly challenging sections. Disaster struck when a section of snow-covered ground gave way beneath the snowmobile's weight. Michael leapt clear just in time as the machine tumbled down a rocky slope, coming to rest 30 feet below, clearly damaged beyond immediate repair. Stranded in a mountain snowstorm, miles from his destination, with Wei's forces potentially already there, Michael faced the most desperate situation yet. But Emma and Lily were waiting, possibly in danger. Failure wasn't an option. He shouldered his survival pack and began climbing, following the compass heading on foot through deepening snow. Time became meaningless, measured only in painful breaths and the burn of exhausted muscles. When he stumbled upon the first sign of human presence, a deliberately stacked pile of rocks marking a trail, it seemed almost miraculous. The markers led to a narrow path cut into the mountainside. As he followed it around a sharp bend, Michael suddenly found himself facing a high fence topped with sophisticated security measures. Beyond it, he could make out the dim outlines of buildings. As he approached the fence, floodlights suddenly blazed to life, illuminating him, A voice came from hidden speakers. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Michael Donovan, he called back, his voice hoarse. I'm looking for my daughter Emma and a girl named Lily Chen. Dr. Chen's daughter is here. Approach the gate for verification. Relief nearly buckled his knees. They had made it safely, and the collective knew who Lily was. Recognized her connection to her mother. Place your hand on the scanner for DNA verification, the voice instructed. Michael complied, though uncertainty nagged at him. How would they have his DNA on file? Confirmed. Genetic comparison indicates relation to minor Emma Donovan, already within our facility. Access granted. Inside, warmth enveloped him like a physical presence after the biting cold. Two people waited, a woman with silver-streaked dark hair and piercing eyes, and a younger man whose posture suggested military training. Mr. Donovan, the woman greeted him. Hi, I'm Dr. Miranda Reeves, current director of the collective. Your daughter and Lily Chen arrived several hours ago. They're safe. Ways people, Michael managed to say. Helicopters. They might have tracked us here. We're aware, she said. Our security systems detected their approach. Countermeasures have been implemented. What kind of countermeasures? The kind that make us invisible to conventional and unconventional tracking methods. Dr. Reeves replied cryptically. Rest assured, Mr. Donovan, Victor Way cannot find this facility unless we wish to be found. A doctor checked him over efficiently, confirming mild hypothermia but no serious injury. As warm fluids were administered through an IV, Michael felt his alertness returning slightly. The girl, he reminded the man called Alex, who had remained nearby. You said they're safe? They're fine, resting in guest quarters. Lily required some specialized attention for her implant, but our medical team was able to address it. You know what she is? Michael asked carefully. We know who her parents were. Were. Helen Chen was a founding member of the collective before Wei recruited her away. We've been monitoring their research from afar for years, including what happened to their daughter after their deaths. The door opened to admit Dr. Reeves again, accompanied by a tall, lean man with dark skin and intelligent eyes. Mr. Donovan, Dr. Reeves said. This is Dr. Isaiah Washington, our head of research and another founding member of the collective. Dr. Washington stepped forward, studying Michael intensely. You've done something remarkable, Mr. Donovan. You've rescued not just a child in danger, but potentially the key to ensuring that what Helen and Robert Chen created cannot be weaponized or exploited. Dad! The exclamation came from the doorway where Emma had appeared, her face lighting up. She rushed forward, throwing her arms around him. You made it, she said. I was so worried when the storm got worse. I promised I would, Michael reminded her. Is Lily okay? Emma's expression was a mixture of excitement and awe. She's amazing, Dad. These people, they've been helping her with the implant. And they knew her parents. They have pictures of her when she was a baby, before everything happened. Lily is more than okay, Dr. Washington said with a small smile. For the first time since her parents' deaths, she is truly free. The question now is what that freedom will mean, for her and for all of us. This place is incredible, Dad, Emma whispered later. They have laboratories more advanced than anything I've ever seen. Greenhouses where they grow all their own food, energy systems that work completely off-grid. And they knew Lily's parents? Emma nodded eagerly. They were all part of the same research team originally, before Mr. Wei convinced Lily's parents to leave. Dr. Washington said they tried to warn them about Wei, but they didn't listen until it was too late. As consciousness faded, Michael's last thought was of Lily, a child with the weight of human evolution encoded in her DNA, now sleeping peacefully somewhere in this hidden sanctuary of science and resistance. Whatever came next, he knew with absolute certainty that their lives had been irrevocably changed by the girl they'd pulled from the frozen lake. 6 months later, the summer sunrise painted the mountains in hues of gold and amber, colors that always reminded Michael of Lily's eyes. He stood on the observation deck of the collective's new headquarters, coffee mug warming his hands as he watched the day begin. Early again? Dr. Washington joined him at the railing, his own steaming mug suggesting similar morning habits. Military training dies hard, Michael replied with a smile. Besides, the view is worth it. The decommissioned military bunker that had seemed so austere when they first arrived had blossomed under the collective's care. Gardens now terraced down the mountainside. Solar arrays gleamed on every suitable surface. and children's laughter often echoed through corridors once designed for war. "Any word from Washington?" Michael asked. "The congressional hearings continue. Way's legal team is fighting every subpoena, but the evidence is overwhelming. His assets in North America have been frozen pending investigation." "That won't stop him," Michael observed. "He has resources elsewhere." "True, but his reputation has been irreparably damaged. The expose your friend helped publish has gone global. Even his allies in Beijing are distancing themselves. It was progress, but Michael remained vigilant. Way had gone underground after the failed attempt to recapture Lily, but a man of his resources would eventually resurface. "The adoption paperwork came through yesterday," Dr. Washington mentioned. "Congratulations, officially." "Thank you," Michael said simply, though the word hardly seemed adequate for what the collective had done, creating a completely new legal identity for Lily, one that established her as Michael's adopted daughter while protecting her from Way's continued searches. Lily Chen had legally ceased to exist. Lily Donovan was now his daughter in every way that mattered. "Dad! Isaiah! You have to come see this!" Emma's excited voice carried from the doorway. At 13 now, she had grown taller, her confidence blossoming in this environment of scientific discovery. Lily figured it out. The protein folding problem that was blocking the memory enhancement application. She woke up at 5 a.m. with the solution. They found Lily in the main research laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays of molecular structures that twisted and reconfigured as she gestured with elegant precision. Scientists watched with expressions ranging from astonishment to delight. "The previous models assumed linear causality," Lily was explaining, animated with excitement. "But if we introduce this temporal recursion factor," she manipulated a glowing section, "the protein actually folds backward through its configuration history, creating a stable memory matrix." Lily spotted them, and her face lit up. "Dad, did Emma tell you? We solved it." The casual way she called him Dad still sent a warm surge through Michael's chest. The first time had been about 3 weeks after their arrival, and he'd been so startled he nearly dropped the equipment he was helping install. Now it felt as natural as breathing. "She said you had a breakthrough," Michael replied. The implications were significant. One aspect of the collective's revised Genesis protocol focused on treating degenerative neurological conditions, Alzheimer's, dementia, traumatic brain injuries. Lily's breakthrough could transform millions of lives. "Your parents would be so proud," Dr. Washington said, continuing their legacy the right way, with ethics at the center. Later that afternoon, Michael found himself watching as Emma and Lily joined other children in a game that seemed part soccer, part tactical strategy. Dr. Reeves settled beside him. "The council has been discussing the next phase of the outreach program. We'd like you to consider taking a more active role." The outreach program had been conceived as a bridge between the collective's research and the wider world. Careful sharing of beneficial discoveries through trusted networks of medical professionals and ethical scientists. "Field coordinator," Dr. Reeves explained. "Someone who can assess potential collaborators, establish secure channels, and if necessary, extract researchers who might be at risk from organizations like Way Consolidated." "I'd need to discuss it with Emma and Lily," Michael replied. "Any decision that affects our family needs to be made together." Dr. Reeves smiled at his use of the word family. "Of course, family comes first. That's one of the principles we're trying to preserve." That evening, during their family meeting, Michael explained Dr. Reeves' proposal, presenting both the benefits and risks. "You'd be helping find other scientists who want to do the right thing," Emma summarized thoughtfully. "But you'd be exposed," Lily pointed out, immediately identifying the core risk. "If Way's people are monitoring potential collaborators, they might recognize you." "It's a calculated risk," Michael acknowledged, "but the potential good outweighs the danger, I think." The girls exchanged one of their communicative glances, a silent language they had developed over months of shared experiences. "We think you should do it," Emma said. "It's important work, like what you did for Lily, but for others who need help too. But with conditions," Lily added firmly. "Secure protocols, regular check-ins, and no unnecessary risks." Michael smiled at their protective instincts, a reversal of the usual parent-child dynamic that somehow felt exactly right for their unusual family. "Agreed, and any extended missions would need unanimous family approval." Later, after both girls had gone to bed, Michael stood at the window of their quarters, gazing at the star-filled sky above the mountains. So much had changed in 6 months. He had lost his old life, job, home, community, but gained something he hadn't known he was missing. Purpose, connection. A family expanded in unexpected ways. And beyond their personal journey lay larger questions. What did Lily's existence mean for humanity's future? How could the tremendous power of genetic enhancement be harnessed for good rather than control? What responsibilities came with the ability to direct human evolution? These were questions without easy answers, challenges that would unfold over decades. But for the first time since Sarah's death, Michael found himself looking toward the future with hope rather than mere determination. Whatever came next, they would face it together. An ordinary man, an extraordinary girl, and the daughter who had brought them together with her compassion and courage. Outside, a shooting star traced a brilliant path across the dark sky. A reminder that even in a universe governed by precise physical laws, moments of beauty could still surprise us. Evolution wasn't just about adaptation and survival, but also about discovering new possibilities, new ways of being human. As Michael turned from the window to check on his sleeping daughters one last time, he reflected that perhaps this was the greatest lesson of their journey, that humanity's next evolution wouldn't be merely biological or technological, but moral and relational as well. The capacity to care for those different from ourselves, to risk comfort and safety for justice, to create family from strangers, these too were evolutionary advances, perhaps the ones that mattered most. The frozen lake had been only the beginning. The true journey was just unfolding, with each day bringing new challenges and unexpected joys. And whatever the future held, they would meet it together, step by step, choice by choice, love by love.